If Yosemite National Park is on your list of must-see places, be aware that if you enter the park seeking adventure, you may get more than you bargained for. Yosemite National Park is rich with supernatural mysteries, from cursed canyons to missing persons to haunted encounters. But before we get into today's video, be sure to go ahead and smack that like and subscribe button, because I release storytelling of the mysterious and supernatural. Let's go. Located in the Sierra Nevada, California, Yosemite National Park is one of the most recognized and visited units of the National Park Service. With 3.3 million visitors in 2021 alone, the park is the 5th most visited national park in the entirety of the United States, and home to some of the country's most breathtaking waterfalls, deep valleys, and tranquil bodies of water. It is truly a wilderness unlike any other. Glaciers slowly crawled across the land, leaving behind vast granite formations and canyons bordered by high, rugged cliffs. Outdoor enthusiasts visit Yosemite for miles of hiking trails, camping, rock climbing, exploring giant sequoia forest, watching the roaming wildlife, and many other activities. But while Yosemite National Park holds some of the most gorgeous landscapes known to mankind, it is also the site of numerous bizarre happenings, including mysterious vanishings and disturbing paranormal events. What causes such a beautiful, picturesque place to have so much chaos and darkness under its surface? One of the most hazardous locations in the park is Tenaya Canyon, and it might hold the answer to the question. The canyon runs from the Tenaya Lake down to the Yosemite Valley, traversing several cascades and pools of serene water for 10 miles, all before flowing over the falls at Cloud's Rest near the famous area of Half Dome. There is no foot trail through Tenaya Canyon, making it difficult for even the most extreme adventurer to navigate. Many signs warn hikers against traversing the canyon, telling them that if it shouldn't be attempted without rock climbing gear. While beautiful, the area of Tenaya Canyon should be avoided if at all possible. While the canyon is naturally treacherous, however, there may be something else at play besides careless visitors and other freak accidents. It is believed by many that the reason behind all the strange happenings, unexplained vanishings, and general unrest in Yosemite is actually due to a curse put on the land by the canyon's namesake, Chief Tenaya. Yosemite National Park was not established as a protected land until 1854. Before that time, the Awani people inhabited the land and named the valley Awani. It is unknown how long these people inhabited the valley, but they were well settled in the region by the time white settlers arrived in the mid-1800s. Now, according to records, the first appearance by non-Native American in the valley was 1849. Until then, Yosemite Valley was considered impassable even to the most dedicated fur traders in the region. The steep, rocky terrain was not worth the risk to those passing through. But the California gold rush of the 1850s was very inspiring, and suddenly every European settler, most of them miners, had reason to begin inhabiting the area. And by 1851, the valley was ordered to be cleared of all natives by the United States Army. Refusing to be pushed out of his home, Chief Tenaya resisted the Army's orders, and fighting broke out between the two groups. These were known as the Mariposa Wars, and while they only lasted about 6 months, they proved costly for the Awani. Now, during one of the deportation efforts, things turned violent, and several of the young Awani were killed, including Chief Tenaya's favorite son, who was shot while trying to escape. Chief Tenaya was angry and upset about the death of his son, and in turn placed a curse on the valley. "You may kill me, Sir Captain," he said, "but you shall not live in peace. I will follow in your footsteps. I will not leave my home, but with the spirits among the rocks, the waterfalls, in the rivers, and in the wind. Whatsoever you go, I will be with you. You will not see me, but you will fear the spirit of the old chief and grow cold." Damn. In the end, the Awani people surrendered and relocated to a reservation near Fresno, away from the Yosemite Valley and their well-known home. The chief would eventually lead a small group of 200 back to the area to live out the remainder of their days. However, he never recanted the words he spoke that day, and the cursed spirit of Chief Tenaya still seems to haunt Yosemite National Park just as he had promised, bringing unrest to the valley. Now, of course, over the years, Tenaya Canyon has become known as the Bermuda Triangle of Yosemite due to the sheer number of mysterious accidents and deaths that have taken place there. Could it be a coincidence? Sure. In the last 60 years alone, nearly 20 deaths have occurred at that location alone, and many more people have needed to be rescued via search parties and helicopters. In fact, John Moore himself had a near-death experience. An avid outdoorsman and naturalist, Moore was instantly fascinated with the lands of Yosemite and spent much time exploring them. One afternoon, while hiking the canyon, Moore slipped and fell, smashing his head off a rock, tumbling downhill, only coming to a rest when a shrub stopped him from dropping off the cliff. He wrote about his experience and expressed in his journal how shocked he was that he seemed to trip over nothing, which occurred so rarely that he couldn't remember the last time it had happened. Now, fortunately for him, he was able to walk out of the valley with only some bumps, bruises, and a small concussion. But sadly, there have been many who have met with unhappier endings. In July of 1996, Tenaya Canyon claimed the lives of 2 hikers in separate accidents on the same day. One hiker fell 130 feet to his death. The other was rappelling down hidden falls when he slipped from his rope, fell into the water-filled canyon below, and drowned. Both men were reportedly experienced outdoorsmen and climbers. Their deaths at the mercy of the canyon left many they knew shocked and saddened. Now, cursed or not, Tenaya Canyon certainly seems like it's the site of some unexplainable incidents. But it is not just the Tenaya Canyon area of Yosemite that people experience great tragedy in. All throughout the park, people have gone missing, seemingly vanishing into thin air. The most famous incident was the disappearance of Stacy Harris on July 17, 1981. Now, I've talked about her in previous videos, but I'll fill you in on more information. When Stacy was 14, she went on a camping trip with her father and some other campers to the Sunrise Sierra Camp. Now, shortly after they arrived at camp, Stacy expressed her interest in taking a short hike to Sunrise Lake, hoping to get some good photos of the scenery. Her father was not really interested in going with her, but another member of the group, a 77-year-old man, said he would walk with her and keep her company. As they neared the lake, the older man told Stacy he needed to sit down and rest, but he would catch up with her. So, Stacy, jolly and happy, continued on toward the site, and campers below saw the older gentleman sit down and watched Stacy walk on a little further before she had walked behind a few trees and was out of sight. Sadly, she was never seen or heard from again. There was no evidence of any kind that could be used to point the search and rescue team in one direction or another. I mean, they found her camera, but not Stacy. At its peak, 100 search and rescue members, 3 aircraft, and 2 dog teams combed through the area where Stacy was last seen, but nothing was ever discovered. Stacy is one of 13 unsolved cases involving people going missing from Yosemite National Park. None of those 13 have ever been seen or heard from again. It is as if they have vanished off the face of the earth. I mean, did they run away, get lost, wander into some nook or crevice of the park, and die? Or is there something extraterrestrial or paranormal at play in the park? Besides these 13 missing adults, Yosemite has had a significant number of children go missing over the years as well. Now, according to David Paulides, author of the well-known Missing 411, which I'm sure many of you know, the number of children that have gone missing in Yosemite is in the hundreds. Many simply wandered off, but for others, their disappearances were just plain odd. The strangest part is the patterns involved with these cases. I mean, most of the missing children are under 10 years of age, and there were no signs of struggle or evidence of foul play at the sites where they were last seen. These children also tend to go missing during severe weather, like a storm hits and shortly after they're gone. Even stranger is dogs cannot find the missing children's scents, and when they do, it seems to find some trail that always leads up a mountain or a hillside. But the oddities do not stop with similar patterns. Many children have been located exceptionally far away from where they were last seen. Now, in some cases, children as young as 2 and 3 were found 10 to 15 miles away from the search perimeters in just a short amount of time, rendering it impossible that a child of that age could travel such a great length. Others are recovered at higher elevations than they went missing. How does a young child, a toddler, get so far away in such a short amount of time? This is something even Paulides himself does not know. More striking are the cases where children are recovered at spots that were previously searched several times. In nearly all cases, the body is missing shoes. Cases like these occur across the country in nearly all national park units with mountainous terrain or dense forestry. But in the circumstances of kids in Yosemite in particular, the story leads many people down the paranormal intrigue. The cause of this comes from the children, many of whom share similar stories, one involving giant hairy friendly bears or wolves who take care of them during the storms. The curses and missing persons are not the only evidence of unrest to plague Yosemite and cast a shadow over the otherwise beautiful park. The park is also known for several haunted locations where ghost and paranormal occurrences create quite a stir. Now, Yosemite is home to many hiking trails, and most are known for their awe-inspiring views. But some of those are famous for other reasons, namely because they are considered some of the most haunted trails in the national park. Take, for example, Chilnuana Falls Trail. It is a waterfall hike in Yosemite. Challenging for novice hikers, this 8.4-mile trail leads hikers to 3 cascades, loops past Grouse Lake, and leads away from the busier spots in the park. One of the first stops along Chilnuana Falls Trail is Grouse Lake, where visitors claim to hear the wails of young children begging for help. This was first reported by a man named Galen Clark, one of the first settlers in the region to establish a permanent residence in Yosemite. He erected Pioneer Village, a historic landmark where visitors can see some of the oldest buildings in the valley. Now, Clark spent most of his adult life caring for Yosemite's lands and helping to preserve the area and encourage tourism. He would go on to become the first park ranger of Yosemite in 1867. But in 1857, Galen Clark wrote about the ghost of Grouse Lake. While exploring the area one evening, Clark was startled by a noise he could not pinpoint. At first, he thought it was perhaps a wounded puppy or some other animal in peril. And after thoroughly searching the area, he could not locate the sound, but it seemed to be coming from the direction of the lake itself. Now, Clark, who got along well with the local Native Americans, visited their hunting camp to talk with them and described the event that he had experienced. Clark reported that the group told him it was not the cries of a dog he heard, but that of a young boy who drowned in the waters of Grouse Lake long, long ago. They told him that whenever a person passes near the lake, the boy cries out for help, luring others to the water's edge, and they warned Clark not to go near the water if he heard the cry again. Rather than accepting the help offered, the ghost is said to grab the legs of the would-be rescuer and pull them down to drown them in the water with him. Galen Clark reported that he initially thought they were joking with him, but by the end of their story, he honestly believed them to be sincere. If you are brave enough to venture near Grouse Lake, be sure to listen closely to the cries for help, but be wary of the water. It seems that water is the most dangerous element in Yosemite, as it always seems to be leading hikers to their deaths. Now, there are 25 waterfalls in the national park, each of which is a prime objective for hikers, photographers, and thrill seekers alike. Unfortunately, hikers get a bit too close every year and find themselves tumbling over the edge to their deaths. Since the park was established, there have been roughly 53 deaths around the waterfalls. Reports often state that visitors slip on rocks, tripping over boulders, or were trying to get a closer look when they tumbled over the edge. While those reasons likely hold some truth, according to Awani and Miwok legend, something more sinister could be at play. They claim an evil wind spirit called Pohono lurks near Yosemite's waterfalls. The Awani legend tells the story of two young native women who were out one afternoon picking berries along the Bridal Veil Falls. As they were enjoying the day and leisurely activity, a mist swirled up as if from out of nowhere, entrancing one of the women. It led her closer and closer to the falls, and as she neared the edge, the mist let out a horrendous shriek, pushing her into the rocky waters below. The other woman, scared by what she had just witnessed, ran back to the tribe, told the chief what she had seen, and after hearing the story, the chief forbade anyone to go near the falls for fear that the evil spirit Pohono would push others to their deaths as well. Now, many visitors who hike the area report a chilly, almost forceful wind at their backs when they get near the falls, even on the warmest of days. Strange, right? Signs throughout the park warn visitors to stay back from the falls and keep a safe distance. Countless barriers have been installed, but they do not stop some of the more persistent tourists. In 2019, Bridal Veil Falls had 3 separate incidents recorded in a single day. Tragically, one of the victims perished in the hospital shortly after being rescued. And in each incident, witnesses to the accidents reported to park employees that they were unsure of what caused the victims to fall. Strange. They seemed steady one moment and gone the next. Most speculated that the tourist tripped or slipped on the wet rocks before plunging the 20 feet into the rocky waters below. Perhaps they fell victim to the siren's call, and Pohono took his opportunity to strike. The picturesque falls and trails are not only spots where visitors have reported spooky encounters. One of the most popular overnight lodgings in the park is also reportedly an active spot for ghostly encounters. The Awani Hotel, known today as the Majestic Hotel, is known for its stunning interior design work and one-of-a-kind architecture. Opening in 1927, it is located near Half Dome and offers guests spectacular views of the surrounding canyon bluffs. If you're visiting Yosemite National Park and need lodging, this indeed is the place to stay. It is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is a National Historic Landmark. And if you visit the hotel and get a sense of deja vu, it could be because the Awani Hotel was the inspiration behind the Overlook Hotel in Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Knowing that fact only adds to the creepy feeling many visitors get when they stay in the lodgings. One of the most common encounters for visitors is said to be the ghost of Mary Curry Tressiter. Mary and her husband lived on the 6th floor of the hotel and were prominent members of the community and enthusiasts of Yosemite National Park. And on October 29, 1970, Mary died of a heart attack in her suite at the hotel. Many guests who stayed on that floor reported seeing Mary's spirit roaming around her room or going for a walk in the hallway. It seems her spirit is friendly, as staff and guests have reported feeling the sheets being tucked tight around them as if she's putting them to bed. Other guests have reported hearing her calling out to them, finding their clothes folded neatly upon waking up, and other little pranks here and there that they attribute to Mary. Another apparition is linked to former President John F. Kennedy. Kennedy stayed on the 3rd floor of the hotel while visiting Yosemite himself. Before settling for bed, he had asked the hotel staff if they could bring a rocking chair into his room for the evening, because sitting helped ease his back pain. Naturally, the staff agreed to his request for the chair and placed it in the corner of the room for the night. After he'd left, the chair was removed from the room. But upon his death, the chair was placed back in the room as a reminder of his time there. People who stay in the room often report seeing the chair rocking throughout the night, as if someone is steadily rocking themselves back and forth. Now, our last story falls into a category all on its own. It doesn't involve missing people or ghostly encounters, but an incident reported by a backcountry ranger. An incident that remains unsolved to this day. This park ranger recounted living in a park housing in Yosemite and admitted the house was haunted. He and his roommate often experienced lights flickering on and off, unexplainable noises, and things moving from one spot to another. He also knew all about Pohono and was involved in several rescue missions that would have been easy to blame on the wind, but he recalled one strange event that left him so unnerved that it still wakes him up at night. He was in the backcountry, hiking the loop from O'Shaughnessy Dam near the Hetch Hetchy to the northern part of Yosemite. In total, the hike took him roughly 3 days to complete. A day into the hike, as he was getting into the area of the park where people rarely visit, he noticed a rock in the trail ahead of him. As he neared the stone, he realized it was oddly shaped and appeared furry. It was not long before he realized that what he was looking at was not a stone, but the severed head of a deer lying directly in the middle of his path. He was disturbed by what lay in front of him, but the more he examined the head, the more nervous he grew. The head had been cleanly removed as if sliced by a sharp blade. There was no evidence of tearing, which would have occurred if another animal had ripped it off. The kill also appeared fresh. There was still fur and meat on the skull. But upon inspecting the surrounding area, there was no evidence of the body or blood anywhere nearby. Whatever had gone through the trouble to kill the deer and decapitate it also seemed to have brought it specifically to this trail and placed it right there. After thoroughly surveying the area, the ranger decided to bury the head and continue his trek. He remained vigilant, however, concerning that whatever or whoever had placed the head on the trail was still nearby. He was very unnerved when he came to yet another severed deer head about a half-mile further. This one was more decomposed, but otherwise it was exactly like the one before, placed in precisely the same way. But again, no carcass was found near the site. After the second head, the ranger reported feeling extremely nervous and uneasy. He was alone in the backcountry with little to no contact with anyone. His radio worked, but it would have been too late by the time backup arrived. And by that point, he was a solid 30 miles into the backcountry, so continuing on was quicker than turning around. Again, he buried the deer's head and continued walking onward. Half a mile later, he found a third head. This one was basically just a skull with nothing but bone left behind. The ranger knew at that point that he had stumbled into something sinister and weird. He quickly buried the animal's head, continuing to walk briskly, trying to get as far away as possible. When it became dark, rather than set up camp as he usually would have, he found a large tree with a rock outcropping. He stayed up all night with his back against the tree, listening for sounds of movement and watching the shadows dance across the trees. At first light, the ranger continued his trek and was thankful he did not encounter any more heads for the rest of the hike. He hiked for a full day after the event and said he did not sleep until he returned home. Now, he did file a report with the law enforcement rangers, but as far as he knows, nothing ever came of the event, and it still haunts him to this day. What makes a place as beautiful and full of wonder as Yosemite National Park such a hotbed of paranormal and mysterious events? Between the cluster of unexplained vanishings in the park, ghostly sightings, and the eerie occurrences, it makes you wonder. Is Chief Tenaya living up to his word? Is the curse that was cast upon the lands so long ago by the Awani chief responsible for all the unrest? Or can it all be chalked up to clumsy and frightened tourists? One thing's for sure, if you plan on visiting Yosemite, it's best to be extra cautious and keep your eyes and ears open. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from all of you. And also, if you're a fan of storytelling of the mysterious and supernatural, be sure to go ahead and smack that like and subscribe button for more content just like this. Now, as always, I love you all, keep an open mind, and I'll catch you guys in the very next video.